Hey there, Russian Doll fans. We are talking about the craziest show to hit Netflix that we even know of. We're talking about two different episodes tonight. Episode 3, A Warm Body, and Episode 4, Alan's Routine. We're also going to be giving some news and gossip, our predictions, talk a little bit about how Natasha Lyonne gets that perfect hair. And we're going to do a special segment called What the Hell is Happening, where we break down some of your theories. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Russian Doll After Show. We're talking about Episode 3, A Warm Body, and Episode 4, Alan's Routine. I'm your host, Elena Jordan, and joining me today...
I'm Amy Maestri, very excited to be back talking about these crazy episodes.
Man, super crazy. I'm Imani Jackson, and I cannot wait to figure out what the hell is happening. Honestly.
Me too, man. Me too. So, diving right into it, what did you guys think of these two episodes?
Wow. These two were really good because now we see that she's not the only one. So I'm wondering, how many more? Why them two? So I enjoyed this. I like that they put another person in there.
Yeah, I think they did a lot of good building in episode 3 just to hit us with such a bombshell at the end. So I love the way that they paced that episode out.
Literally
only
hit the
to
two
dive,
of them too.
Yeah. Literally, boom, at the bottom of the elevator. Just to dive in to like fully immerse ourselves in this new character. So I think the combo of these two are incredible.
Yeah.
This was a really, really cool episode too, going into A Warm Body, because all of these titles as well, it's like slightly misleading on some of them. This one, A Warm Body, I just assumed would be referencing her dying yet again, which it does. But also she makes a reference to John later about, we don't want to have just a connection with people to have a connection, to have a warm body there. And then later, ultimately, the not so warm body when she and Horse freeze to death. So pretty rough, this episode. This was like, I was like, I'm with you, man. Like, ooh, this is dark.
Even now, yeah. What Jesus, that's dark.
Like, thank you for at least acknowledging what all of us have been thinking pretty much from the beginning. So this one, of course, picks up right where we left off. Lizzie is back into the F pile. Which I'm just like, man, Lizzie is living the life. Like, every time that Nadia wakes up, I'm like...
Living the life, girl.
I also love that Lizzie and Maxine were talking about podcasts. Did you guys get that?
Yes.
When they're talking about, like, all the different podcasts, which there are many different podcasts that you guys can listen to. Thank you for listening to us.
Yes.
Before we dive too much into the episode, too, I want to let you guys know we have so many podcasts here at AfterBuzz TV. You can check out all of them. Please subscribe, rate, give us that thumbs up on iTunes, YouTube, especially iTunes. We love hearing your comments on iTunes. We don't get as many on that one. So if you're listening on iTunes, let us know what you think of the episode. We have so many different categories broken up, so easy for you guys to find on AfterBuzz TV, too. You can sign into the comedy, the drama, the sci-fi, the what the hell is this, which is what I think this one falls under. But please continue to give us those thumbs up, those 5 stars, and give us your comments. A little later on in the episode, too, we're going to be breaking down some fan theories as well. Just a good time to do it because I am like all over the place with this show. There's so many things that it could be referencing.
Seriously.
So this one, they're talking about how in this timeline, John has left his coat over Nadia. He wants to get it back. Their whole dynamic is very, very odd in this one. She is going to try to figure out what is happening. She decides, okay, it's not the drugs. We've ruled out the drugs. It's because we're in this Jewish school, the yeshiva. We need to figure out what's happening. I'm going to go see the rabbi. The rabbi won't talk to her. Actually, it's Shifra in the front who's like, no single lady. You can't go in here. Like, Beyonce had it wrong. No single ladies in here. It's you go get your husband, bring him back. What did you guys think about John dropping his client meeting last minute to just rush down and help her out?
It's clear, like how you were mentioning, their dynamic is kind of strange because she's still keeping that like kind of being an asshole with him and with everyone else, and he seems like he's really, really interested in her. Like, why aren't you taking me seriously? So to see him drop all of his things to go help her, that was just like, I think she knows that he feels this way about her.
Yeah, I like that they finally kind of went there in this episode of you're like, oh wow, he seems like such a nice guy. That's not gonna work out.
She's just like the opposite.
Yeah.
So then this one you get to see a little bit more of that back and forth. So that's why again I like the pacing of this to like slow it down for a second and let us see her in some of those more intimate moments with him and kind of see those moments where you're like, oh, that's kind of where it does work, but then that's why it doesn't.
Do you think maybe she doesn't know how to show love? Or
I think she's scared.
it? Yeah, she seems very afraid because even in that moment in the bedroom, she seemed like, oh, he's pretty upset, but this is still kind of awkward. So, I mean...
Yeah, she leaves her own apartment.
Yeah, she's like, I gotta
bounces.
go. I can't deal with this.
She just popped right up and was like, nope, sorry.
Yeah, and the whole, chivalry is as sweet as cyanide comment, which I also didn't know that cyanide was sweet.
Yeah.
Learning new stuff every day from Russian Doll.
Russian Doll. Which poisons are the sweetest? Chivalry and cyanide.
But now it has me thinking because in that apartment building, we're seeing she's kind of reliving moments with him, even though they're different. And then when it comes to, what is it, Alan? Is it? Yeah, he's reliving the moment with the breakup. So I don't know. Maybe this is going to come in my prediction. I'll figure it out. Because they're both just like reliving these relationship type of things. Even though it's her birthday, he's still there.
Yeah, it's this like emotional connection that we see. Basically, she just has him on the hook. And we finally get the story when he's talking to the rabbi. My wife found out about us. My daughter doesn't like me anymore. And even says to her, I blew up my whole life for you, which isn't on you. And I'm glad that he acknowledges that. He doesn't blame her for it. He takes responsibility for his own actions, but she's not taking responsibility for her. She's not even acknowledging it. She's asking him to drop everything, to rush down here. And then when he thinks that they're getting back together, she just bounces and makes fun of him.
Maybe this is for the revelation or something, like for her to learn something deep about herself as Alan has to, because he's asking the girl in his apartment building, what do you think about me? So maybe this is just a learning experience for them all to kind of get over whatever they need to get over.
It's a good point because she seems like very self-aware about certain things and completely oblivious to others.
Yeah.
So like that would fall in the oblivious category.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And when Shifra's talking too, and she's giving the prayer, the protection prayer, and she asks, what does it mean? She's saying, angels are all around us. And that's the prayer that she says for her. And it seems like John seems to be her guardian angel at this point, and she keeps pushing him away, keeping him at arm's length, doesn't want to get too close. So it's interesting how that plays in. And this whole idea when the rabbi is talking, when he says mysticism is the concept of mysticism is that there's a wisdom that's inaccessible to the intellect, and you can only reach when you surrender.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's this idea. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying it's so deep because it's so true. Like, there are some things like you have to surrender in order for, if you believe in God or whoever your creator may be, you need to surrender to allow it to be revealed to you. So maybe this is going to come if she surrenders and if Alan surrenders, because you still see him trying to take control. But this is going to be my prediction later. I have no idea where I'm going with this.
I mean, I feel like that's where we all are at this point. So
just universal spitballing basically right now.
But just this whole thing where he says, you're trying to avoid the abyss when embracing it is the only way to move forward. And that seems to be something, Nadia keeps dying. She keeps trying to push away this idea, how am I going to overcome it? And it seems that embracing this death or whatever is happening to her is the only way to transcend that moment.
Yeah.
And so anytime the spiritual leaders come in and drop some knowledge, you're like, all right, take note, like jot it down, like what did he say, like this is probably important.
Yeah, we got to listen to this part. Yeah, I think they're so clear and vivid in their imagery with their words in this show. Like everything paints such a picture, and even like I think you mentioned it last time, similar to Black Mirror, that like they don't waste words ever. Like everything means something. And I also loved when the rabbi said that buildings aren't haunted, people are.
I loved that.
Deep.
I love that. Yes, yes. And then just this whole concept, going back to the title of the episode, when she's like, your best argument is that a warm body is what you need for connection, even though he's already demonstrated to her that he's so much more than that. And physically keeping her warm by giving his jacket to her and all of these things where he's dropping everything last minute to rush down and try to help her. I really like that idea of, her being haunted and not being able to get close enough to him to fully acknowledge that this isn't just a warm body scenario. This is somebody who genuinely cares about her. And then ultimately being told that she is the abyss.
Yikes.
Yikes.
I do have to say, too, with the yeshiva school, I have to give so many props to the writers on this for everything that we've talked about, but also they don't write small parts.
Right.
Shifra, the rabbi, had such like meat to their couple minutes that they had on air or on screen for this. And I think they're doing such a good job with all these minor characters making such an impact on the show too.
That is so true, because now I think we could kind of wipe out the religion aspect. We did the drugs, we wiped that out, but all of those moments were really
just sounds like life motto.
Yeah, it's just like life is just happening and happening. But yeah, those minor scenarios have just been super deep, even if it's not really a part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And another character that we see this episode that's been kind of a minor role playing a major part is Horse.
Yeah.
Who, talking about how she feels she's the abyss. She goes and tells him all of this, which I also love when he references her hair, when he's like, is that a hat or a wig? What is that? At the end of the episode, stick around, because we'll be talking about how Natasha Lyonne achieved her iconic hairstyle at this point.
Jealous.
Phenomenal.
Jealous.
So we'll be talking a little bit, giving some quotes from her hair designer. But this whole idea of he wants to cut her hair, and this is the old you. This is the new you, like what you've been living day after day. You have to make a change. And I feel like this whole cutting the hair is very symbolic, because, which of us haven't had a bad breakup and immediately are like, I'm getting bangs.
I ain't cut my hair.
That'll fix it.
I'll go get a weave and cut the weave and be over it.
Better than me. But yeah, this
so
whole
much
thing.
smarter, actually.
If I want to dye my hair, dye the weave.
But yeah, so she's even saying, I look like my mom, and this is the first reference that we get, to her mom, and this whole scenario where she ends up falling asleep and they freeze to death.
Crazy.
Because Horse doesn't want to go back to the shelter because they had his shoes stolen. And so then when she wakes up, she's like, all right, well, now I don't know how this works in this timeline, but the guy that I met yesterday is going to die tomorrow, so I need to go today to try to see if I can keep his shoes from getting stolen. Poor Maxine doesn't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, she never really knows what's going on, just in life in general, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. She's like, I'm making this chicken. It's fine. My makeup is on point. I have a chicken.
Yeah.
We're good.
I have a question. So what do you guys think? Horse didn't die, right? When she came back, he didn't die because she found him.
Yeah, and so that's what kind of poses another question of these timelines. Yeah. Maybe he did, but maybe if that timeline is fully erased from everything, not just her, does he come back? It's what the hell is happening?
What the hell is happening? I'm so glad that that's what we've decided to name our special segment as well, because I feel like we're just going to be referencing it throughout the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it's this whole thing of how does she then affect, she goes back before he would have died, so now she's going to alter the timeline and try to save his life by staying up all night, even though we see that call with John where he's like, I came down here and you're not even here, and you're off looking for another guy. That doesn't make me feel great type deal, where she's like, it's not a sex thing, even though they were all cuddled up when They pat. I don't know. Anyway,
The homeless guy.
Yeah, the homeless guy.
But isn't it interesting because it's going back to this party that John is at, a man that lost his family because of her, and we just keep seeing this relationship. I'm mind blown.
It is one of the few through lines that really just keeps coming back and coming back. That's true.
Yeah. There are certain people that are always echoed in every scenario. So she ends up saving Horse, basically, because she knows that now that she has protected his shoes, he'll go to the shelter the next night. He won't freeze to death on the street because he'll be indoors. But because she's half asleep, she doesn't get out of the elevator when she needs to for her meeting and ends up dying in an elevator crash with this man who just nonchalantly is like, it's fine, I die all the time.
Me too.
What were your thoughts at the end of this episode before we dive into Alan and his routine?
For me, I'm like, great. She has a friend that's going through the same thing because she can't talk to anyone else about this because who's going to believe her? And it's like, and it keeps happening. So it's like, are they even going to remember you said this the other day? So now she has a friend. I like that.
Yeah, I love that it really was just, I die all the time. Like immediately after, just a blackout right from there.
Yeah.
Because then you really do go like, oh my, like, how are they going to find each other again?
Yeah.
Is your immediate response. Then also like, hurry up, let's go, next episode. Yes, I'm still watching.
This was the episode that I was like, I am so glad this is on Netflix and I can binge this whole thing and I don't have to wait a week to figure out, like, wait, what? Like, what
I'm
is
taking
happening?
the safe route. I'm doing it step by step. It's too much. I don't need my head hurting afterwards. Yep.
Legit. I mean, I'm sure their heads probably hurt when they were impacted into the bottom. But anyway. So we also see Alan's routine this next episode, episode 4, about now halfway through the series. He just wakes up 10. He's keeping count. He's keeping count. He's knowing how many times. So now we've known they've died 10 times. His song is also different. Instead of the Gotta Get Up, he has his own theme, the Piano Concerto No. 4 in G major, Rondo Vivace, which also means life. So it's like, okay, they're all, they're kind of tying in together here a little bit. But we see his whole affirmations of success, his routine. He kills the fly. I am beautiful. I am in control. That being the big affirmation. What were you guys thinking here when we're seeing Alan set up and his whole routine and how different it is from Nadia's kind of laissez-faire, see what happens as it goes situation?
I was so happy to see the juxtaposition between the two of them. Like, you cannot get more different. But also, once again, like, just like in the pilot when we met Nadia and her friends, within 3 minutes, we knew so much about those 3 girls. Within 30 seconds, we knew so much about Alan. Yeah. And they did it in such a clean and funny at times way that I was just so like, God, these are so freaking good. They're so freaking good at this.
They're so good.
Yeah, and I thought just like by getting that whole view of Alan and who he is as a person, I thought it was just super interesting because while he's going through these affirmations of I am in control, are you really? Because you can't stop yourself from dying, but he seems to be that type of, I don't know how I would describe this type of person, but super strict on schedule, the way he folds his clothes, the way he puts them up, the way he brushes his teeth. He's just like on a tight schedule. And we're even seeing that through his relationship with his ex-girlfriend, is that he's this super neat freak.
Which was so cool. What did you guys think? Did you guys watch Orange is the New Black?
Oh, yeah.
So seeing Dasha Polanco return,
Yep.
getting to see that kind of Orange is the New Black tie-in as her as Beatrice.
And even, I'm blanking on his name now, Alan. The actor's name.
Charles Burnett.
Charles Burnett, yeah, and because he was even had that story arc in the last season, or was it the season before? With that dick of an officer. He was in the flashback, so he's Orange is the New Black too.
Wait, who is this guy?
cool.
Is this? Wait.
Yeah, Alan had like it was probably like a 2 or 3 episode story arc.
I'd forgotten about that. Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
glad you just pointed that out.
They're just pulling
everyone.
everyone in.
I love
Which
it.
is great.
I'm all about it. And I thought she was great in this episode too. What did you guys think about their whole thing and seeing Alan relive this scenario with Beatrice and this whole thing where he has this down pat and his idea where he's talking to Nadia about, I liked that my life was this repetitive thing. I was finally getting control of it, and her talking about how you always want to fix things. I mean, this was such an interesting insight to the way that each of them are viewing their scenario, where he's like, okay, me dying every day means that I'm in control of this narrative. I already preemptively, I have the drink ready when she says I need a drink. It's so well rehearsed. To him, it's just like a dress rehearsal every day, whereas she's trying to get out of this and escape the scenario. What did you guys think about that and that interaction?
Yeah, I think it was cool to see, again, such a difference with how he's handling it. He's literally like, he's an actor going into work every day. He's like saying his lines, waiting for someone to respond, and then he's doing it again. And he's just so, the way that his life is how he's handling it, instead of like trying to do things differently or figure out a different way. And it's interesting because as different as that is from Nadia, they also have, you can see like an underlying fear of what if I'm crazy? But they're handling it very different ways too.
Yeah.
Like when he thinks of therapy, or when Beatrice says, I was worried about you. I could set you off. You have to have things your own way. Like he has his own struggles with mental illness too. We're seeing the same way that Nadia is scared. Like, wait, what if I'm, like there's early signs of her being like, I need to figure this out. Otherwise it's
What if I'm
me.
Netters? Yeah.
Yeah. But it just goes back for me, like how I was mentioning how he's trying to take that control. And so, but Nadia? No, not Nadia. What's the girlfriend's name? The ex-girlfriend. Yeah, so she's kind of just like pointing it out, like this is the type of person you are. So I think that him reliving this interaction is for a reason. So I'm just ready to see it all unfold. I was really just excited because we see so many different things even though he's reliving this moment and he's coming in like an actor doing his scenes, there's some things that are being revealed. So I think that was really interesting because he did not know about the affair.
About Mike, yeah.
Yes.
And that's something that he didn't want to know. He wanted everything to stay the same script.
And it switched up on him.
Which, this was kind of interesting, too, because when he's talking about, again, we're talking about how there's no wasted lines. Everything means something, and there's so much depth to everything, which is part of why we're losing it. But when he's talking about her paper that she's doing with Mike, and she says, no, I told you for the 1000th time, this is on Updike and the Suburban Imaginary. So a little bit about John Updike himself. He is an author that basically said it's impossible to recreate any historical reference, whether it's fact or fiction, is a fiction because you weren't there. I can't accurately describe a spittoon because I've never used one. I can't accurately reflect what is happening in this environment because I wasn't there. Anything that we say about what happened in history is filtered through our own perspective. And his big thing was that he frequently experienced personal turmoil in response to crisis relating to religion, family obligations, and marital infidelity, which are themes that we see echoed throughout this entire series, especially this episode, and with John and with B, and how each of them, how Nadia is breaking up that relationship. She's the other woman, whereas B is now breaking up the relationship, as you mentioned, and how we have this kind of disconnect with people because of extramarital and extra, like, outside of relationship affairs. Every single thing in this show ties in. And so I almost wonder if that's kind of a reference where it's saying, despite the fact that we're both going through these experiences, we're going to experience them differently because since I'm not there in your moment, I can't accurately describe what's happening to you. Each of these histories, each of these timelines, each time we die, it's almost an indescribable scenario because unless the other person is physically there to experience it, there's going to be a disconnect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it totally is. Because that moment where it's like, why would she say, why is that moment there? Because there's a reason for it. And that is why this show was a 7-year project.
I see.
That right there.
It makes sense.
I want to know how many rewrites, too. Like, as Alan's counting, where he's like, 11, 12. I'm like, is that how the writers felt when they were like, another draft, another draft, another draft?
Just
Wow.
making it rain. Drafts.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to see too, like after the death with Nadia in the elevator, the 11, and then he misses the fly. Everything is slightly off.
Yeah.
I really like too that at the end of episode 3, it ends on "I die all the time." But then in episode 4, we see that she actually got to say "me too" before they hit, because we didn't see that. So I was so glad that like they both got confirmation, like, oh, because at first we only thought it was one way. And that little smirk from Natasha Lyonne after she said "me too."
So
That little
perfect.
shit.
God, I love her.
It's like,
She's just
are you
amazing.
having fun with this at this point? She's like,
Loves it.
Well, now she's like,
because she has a friend. I like that. It's like, we both dying up here. Let's go. What? Another day, another day. Okay.
because we see in episode 3 too, and she walks in and there's like a guy peeing in the bathroom, and she's like, clues all abound. And the guy's like, I'm just peeing, like this isn't a clue, like get out of here. This is weird. But now she has an actual clue, so she goes to Garrett's. She has the whole conversation, which, as you were saying, his compulsory nature, which is even pointed out by the lady at Garrett's, who's like, came in here 20 times and then picked out the most basic ring, no offense. But
What was the description of him? Like Derek Jeter, because like he goes to the gym a lot because he's super buff, but then also not really vain, just
but
because
not vain,
he's
just compulsive.
yeah, just compulsive.
Yeah, which we see too. I mean, he's even working out when it's like, you know, you're gonna die. Like today's workout doesn't affect tomorrow.
Yeah, I
you're
mean-
just choosing to use that
You gonna
time
wake up
for
the
your
same time.
routine.
Props
Because
to that.
Yeah, because everything. I think
Pretty
that
good.
was.
It's pretty impressive.
I mean, I think that was a big indicator to his personality too. Is that,
Yeah.
you know, whatever happens today it doesn't really have an effect.
He didn't have to work off all that cake.
Yeah.
He could have eaten all that cake guilt-free.
That's the one thing that I would have liked
Make-
about being in this scenario is I would just be like, every day a new buffet.
Every day, new buffet. Hey,
Yeah.
every day, new buffet.
Episode 1 of the
Watch
spin-off.
Yeah. Mine would be on like the Cooking Network, like Food Network. It was like not the same show. But yeah, we even see this when he's meeting with his friend Farhan, who we know is this tie to Nadia too.
Yeah.
That he has this deeper relationship, that the guy that she just saw that Farhan was helping out is actually connected. That's why he wasn't there when she was saying, you know, where was your friend from last night? Mm-hmm. We now know it's because he was doing something else in his timeline, which kind of goes again to the Updike scenario where it's like, oh, well, you don't really have a full grasp on what's happening because everybody's doing their own thing. Even the people who are recurring players are tied in ways that we don't know.
So-
And he
Was Mike not connected in another way? Did we not see Mike before that moment?
We did. We saw Mike too. Mike was at the party. He was on the phone. He was the one that she hooked up with.
The
very
night.
first time was Mike. Yeah, the
Which I
gingerbread
love,
man.
yeah. When they show that picture at first when he looks him up, I remember I was just like, oh, shit.
Yeah, we're like, there was that guy.
Yeah.
And him going in and breaking all of the mirrors when they keep waking up in front of the mirror, and this whole thing of like, no, like I'm busting like this reflection of you. And he's even like, how's my face? I don't know because the mirror's gone.
That was so like, okay, bro.
Yeah, I love that all of this seems to be connected. And then going into this whole conversation where Farhan is saying, you know, I had therapy with Shireen because she cheated on me when we first were together. No one can do anything by themselves. And I think that's kind of a big theme that we're now seeing, that they're connected. The way for them to get out of this is potentially to work together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see again that trigger of the word therapy.
Yeah.
For Alan.
Both of them.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
as
now we
soon
see
as he
Alan
heard
is very
that.
like, nope.
Yeah.
Not doing it. Really, really interesting. I thought this was also, I mean, an interesting thing too. Again, no wasted lines. When Mike is talking to his student, when, you know, Alan busts in and busts the mirror and busts a face. A lot of busting going on. Just when he's talking about the this heroes that are haunted by romantically compelled by the horrors, when he's talking about the overlay of slavery with the concentration camps and these different aspects of these different horrors, and how these stories can overlap each other even though they're not at the same time. It's the same idea of these atrocities that are making this impact, which is interesting to see because we see her going, you know, to the temple and everything, and these references. I mean, there's no wasted lines in here, and I love that they reference that, where it's almost like, okay, well, these two people have their own horrors that we can overlay these narratives, these counter narratives that don't necessarily make sense, but you can find the common ground between them.
Yeah, because then they can also drop those little moments of like when he was on the couch after kind of everything went into a tailspin after meeting Nadia, when he was looking in the fish tank and just said, if there are two, one kills the other.
I loved that.
And I was just like, oh. Wow.
And at the end, we see there's no fish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Alan has broken his routine. He doesn't even go to feed the fish.
Yeah.
He's just
no
rushing
fish,
out.
And then there was no ring. It was just a lot of things have been disappearing.
Yeah. He threw the ring into the river and then was electrocuted and woke up. That actually stayed. We're seeing now that there's more effects now that the two of them have met each other as well.
Yeah, because that was so interesting that the ring was gone, because before, whenever Nadia's done something, when she cut her hair, it was long again after. When she burned her finger, it wasn't there anymore. But then he throws the ring away and it's gone.
There's actually an impact now.
Yeah.
Oh, this show is so good.
What the hell is going on?
So, any last thoughts on these episodes before we dive into some of our special segments here?
I just want to know what's going on.
Do we want to do a quick prediction before we dive into some fan theories as well?
There we go.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So I don't have like a strong prediction. I can't even develop a theory, but I am seeing that it obviously has something to do with these two wanting to be in control and not surrendering. So I'm just interested in seeing what's going to happen once they finally do surrender and embrace what's going on in their lives. So I definitely think it has something to do with these relationships. So that's
we kind of deferred to you for our predictions too, because we were impatient and watched the whole series.
This is true.
So
You know what? Without giving anything,
I don't know.
I think I'm gonna go out on a crazy limb. Nadia's gonna die.
We don't use that word in this house.
Nadia's gonna die. And Alan might too.
Wow.
Wow,
Sorry,
you
guys.
just gave it all away.
Sorry, everyone listening.
I predict that Natasha Lyonne's hair is going to be on point. Because it always is. A little news and gossip for you guys. I thought we were gonna. Yeah, there we go. My Alan routine, my Elena routine got thrown from me there for a second. I didn't know what to do.
12.
So Natasha's hairstylist is Marcel. I hope I'm saying this right. It's Dagnais. Degenus is what I believe it is. He has done hair for Orange Is the New Black. He's done hair for Broad City. So that actually was how he was able to make her trademark curls in this one. Alana Glazer, who is on Broad City, was actually the one who introduced him to some of the products that he ended up using on Natasha Lyonne's hair in the series. That copper color, that red, that was dyed. He also gave her a copper shampoo to put in that she said turned all of her sheets and towels orange. But worth it, because it looked phenomenal.
Looks so good.
This was never a wig. Even when he was having the hair cut, she wasn't wearing a wig. It was a special pinning technique where they pinned her hair up and then used just some little pieces of weave when it was the pieces that were cut and that were falling down.
Damn.
So they were able to do that entire scene with her own hair. However, there were a number of wigs that were made to look exactly like her hair for all of the stunt doubles that die over and over and over again. So pretty interesting that everybody was saying, you know, how cool this is. It was a Redken Shade EQ, which if you're looking to get that look, that's how she pulled it off. So kind of interesting that it was someone from another phenomenal show that we love, produced by Amy Poehler.
Man, Queens helping Queens.
I love it. Just making that hairstyle shine. I love it. But yeah, we want to dive into our little final segment before we get out of here, called what the hell is happening? There are so many theories about this show and about what's going on, so we're going to dive into a few of them. Also, if you guys have your own theories, we love, love, love hearing them. Tweet them out to us. Oh, yeah. What the hell is happening?
Let us know.
We'll let you guys know all of our social media handles as well so that you can hit us up directly if you'd like. But please comment. Let us know what you think. So this is pretty interesting. There were several different theories. A lot of people thinking that they are potentially in purgatory. And that this is a situation where they are both somehow connected in purgatory. They have to remember their previous lives. And this is a situation where they don't have the full story, which is kind of indicative when earlier she's saying, you know, I think I know that guy before we actually are introduced to Horse, which makes us think, okay, maybe she's died more times than has been let on. And that this is somehow a connection with that. What do you guys think about that?
I don't know. She seems to remember a lot still, so it's kind of hard to say.
I think, yeah, it depends on how many times, because, yeah, like, she seems to remember a lot about certain areas. So, yeah, back to that moment with Horace of, like, I think I know that guy in the first episode before she died. Like, there is always that question of, has she died before that? Is that not actually her first death? So, and I really do think that ultimately, like, I know they pitched this as 3 seasons. I think it's going to go down really dark paths. And that's a dark path. Yeah. So...
I think so too. If it is like a purgatory thing, which we kind of had these different references, these different, you know, religious references. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah,
it's definitely an interesting. Another one is that they are a victim of multiple dimensions, which the writers have kind of been. They won't confirm or deny anything, but they've been kind of giving us a. If you were a kid and ever played Warm or Colder, where you're trying to find something, they're saying this is a little bit more on the warm side. There are multiple dimensions. So what is y'all's take on that?
I like that one. Purgatory, that was too dark for me. But this one, I could really see that because, you know, you have those alternate universes and, you know, different dimensions. And you could say, like, if I decided to get McDonald's out of Taco Bell, which I eat neither, but if I pick McDonald's, maybe my, you know, split atom decided to get Taco Bell, and so now she's living that life in the, you know, another dimension. So maybe it's just like these different options. Well, I died this way. What would have happened if I died this way? What would have happened if I made a left turn instead of the right turn? So I think that sounds likely.
That's true. I freaking love your analogy. So good.
I
was like, oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hungry right now.
I like that. No, I was just going to say quick, I do like that one, especially because, like, when you were saying earlier, like, well, wait, did Horse die? In which, you know, like, there's multiple options for everyone around her, too. Mm-hmm. Not just her, not just Alan. Like, are people seeing her die? Are people knowing that she died? Are people finding her body? Are they in another dimension? And it reminds me of Community. They did a timeline episode. If you guys haven't seen it and you love Russian Doll, phenomenal. Go look up that episode. I can't remember what season it is, but if you look up, like,
even
weird
we
timeline
are
episode from
the
Community.
Darkest timeline, obviously,
yeah, the darkest
right
timeline. Look it up.
That's crazy.
There's also a kind of interesting theory that maybe they were murderers and that this is some sort of justification type deal because they keep having the murder reference.
What theory was that?
That one's a little out there for me. I'm not sure if I fully engage. Yeah, I'm like,
what? Murderers?
Because we even see this episode where the neighbor is like, you know, how do I know you're not a murderer? Because I haven't murdered anybody. That's just what a murderer would say.
If he was a murderer,
I feel like it's a bit extreme.
He would have murdered his girlfriend, which he didn't.
Yeah, he for sure would have. He would have murdered the crap.
He
out
was
of her.
angry that one time. Didn't he break something or spilled something? He's like, sorry, that wasn't supposed to happen.
That wasn't supposed to happen.
He's not giving me murderer vibes.
Yeah, I'm like, that
very careful.
That one's a little bit out there. I feel like that might be a little colder instead of warmer, but
I do like the idea of Natasha Lyonne just like running around in like a hood or something.
Yeah,
just, like, chopping people down.
I'll do what
with
I
her
need
tiny
to do.
self.
Yeah.
Picture her doing drive-bys. I don't know. I come from a different town. She rolling up on people.
That hair would give her away.
Immediately. It's like, you're done.
Speaking
So-
of that neighbor, though, too, no small parts. They
No
wrote
small
such
parts.
great
So
stuff for
good.
her, and she was so good. She had me cracking up every time I saw her.
I love it. I love it.
Ruthless.
And
She was
all
savage.
of these theories, too. There's no small theories. Even if yours might not be ones that we agree with, we love hearing them. Where can everybody keep up with you guys?
Hey, well, you can find me at Imani Ajax and at MoniJTV.com, where I'm covering everything pop culture.
So you can find me at Amy Maestri on Twitter and Instagram.
And you can find me on Twitter at Elena Jordan and on Instagram at Elena J. Jordan. And you can find all of us here at AfterBuzz TV. We'll be back at our normal slot next week as well. So I've already forgotten when that is.
Mondays at
A
7.
time.
7.
Is it?
7.
We'll tweet you guys and make sure that we know it. We have died and come back to this show so
Which
many
exactly.
times. It
Things
kind
are
of messes us up a
disappearing,
little
pins
bit. Yeah,
moving.
we don't know. There's a bunch of fish randomly. It's crazy. But tune in next time. We'll see you guys. Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.